One of my goals in working with people is to help them learn to reduce their overall stress load so that they can have more resilience. An area where we can do this is by observing and modifying the way that we share information. The brain is always listening to our words and our tone, as well as to the words and tone of others, to determine our level of safety. Since we want to reinforce safety to our brain so that we can have a balanced nervous system, it's helpful to be mindful of what we share and how we share it. There are several types of information sharing as illustrated in this diagram. So we'll begin on the far left with stress sharing. Stress sharing is the sharing of negative or stressful information while reliving the story with all of the emotions and intensity of the experience conveyed with our body language and tone of voice. Have you ever watched someone retell a stressful experience? And as they relive it, you both can see the stress rising in their body. Maybe their face flushes, or they start to talk louder or faster, or both. Here's a brief, fictitious example of stress sharing. When I was done grocery shopping today, I went out to my car and I noticed a scratch on my door from someone else's car door. And when I saw it, I was so upset. Then I started to back out, and another car didn't see me and they almost hit me. So I slammed on my brakes and barely missed them. And my heart was pounding so hard. Then the driver honked at me super loudly, like it was my fault. And I just about jumped out of my skin. I can't believe people these days. What did you feel when I was talking? I could certainly feel the stress, and it was completely made up. We don't want to share like that. When we stress share, we give ourselves and our listeners an extra helping of the exact same stress chemistry that we experienced when the original event happened. Now, often when there's nervous system dysregulation or a trauma or PTSD background, the brain will prompt us to want to share our stories like this with others because our brain is grasping for a sense of safety and trying to get some kind of resolution. We tell others about hard things, hoping we'll feel better or safer as they bear witness to our experience. And we're wanting to have other people help co-regulate us. But it doesn't always work or help us. Sometimes we will feel temporarily better, but then the next stressful thing comes along, and we want someone to hear about that too. And oftentimes we find ourselves drained and down after sharing about something hard and stressful. There's a time and a place to share our stories, and that's important. But oftentimes it's not helpful to be stress sharing, especially if that's our default, regular way of seeking support. The reason that this does not help us in the long run is because we end up experiencing the stress neurochemistry over and over again, which can be a lot for an already taxed nervous system. If we are used to giving and receiving this kind of support with our friends, or giving our weekly or monthly update to our therapist or our coach, it can feel uncomfortable or hard to consider shifting the way that we share information. Stress sharing can release dopamine, and that is part of what makes it feel helpful and good because we all need a little bit of that. But the dopamine that comes from stress sharing comes at a cost because it also brings with it adrenaline and cortisol and other stress neurochemicals, which don't help us build resilience. One more note. In our attempt to reduce stress, we can also go to the opposite end and get hypervigilant about not wanting to be triggered by others and copiously avoiding anything stressful, including all negative conversations. And that isn't helpful either. A gentle balance that includes awareness and the ability to make wise choices to support ourselves is the goal. Let's move on to the next category in the diagram, negative fact sharing. Negative fact sharing is the sharing of information that's not positive, but it's shared in a calm and regulated manner. It communicates what needs to be shared without creating excess stress or dysregulation. Here's an example of negative fact sharing. Hey, I got a phone call today that Grandpa's in the hospital. He's stable, but we might want to plan a time to drive down and visit him. I'm feeling sad and a little worried, but I'm glad that we can go see him. I hope that you can see and feel the difference between stress sharing and negative fact sharing. We can't and don't want to pretend that everything's fine when hard things are happening, but we can get calm and grounded before we share hard information. And we can spend less time, less words, and less emotional energy on the negative sharing so that our nervous system has a chance to handle it and to be able to bounce back. Next, we have neutral fact sharing right in the middle. This is simply information exchanged as a part of doing life or work that has no emotional charge to it. Neutral fact sharing might be, I'm going to the grocery store today. I did remember to add toilet paper to the list, like you asked. Is there anything else I should get? Neutral fact sharing doesn't have a particularly positive or negative impact. It's just part of getting things done and getting needs met. This can be a category that we can use if we do have something that we need. And if we ask it in a neutral way instead of a negative way, that can end up being more productive. So let's move on to positive fact sharing. This is the sharing of positive information. It could be reporting something nice that happened, sharing an idea for a vacation, making plans for the weekend. It's not highly emotional, but it's still positive. Here's an example. I heard back from our friends and they're going to be able to come over next weekend for dinner and games. Yay. And lastly, joy sharing. Joy sharing is the sharing of positivity that connects two people around positive emotions. For example, I took a hike today and saw the most unusual wildflower along the trail. Do you want to see the photo that I took? It's so unique and it made my walk extra fun today. Joy sharing can include appreciation, gratitude, awe, and love. Joy sharing is powerful because it puts deposits in our resiliency bank, making us more buoyant in the face of stress and negativity. So I encourage you to lean into joy sharing as a tool for building a more resilient nervous system.